My name is Samir, and I'm part of the product management team here at MapleSoft for Maple. So I spend much of my time speaking to users and helping you understand our tools, technologies, and services. And today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Maple 2024. This time of year is always really exciting for me and my fellow product managers. We get to talk about the software that we've been working on for the last 12 months, all our projects and more. And I hope some of that enthusiasm is obvious during the course of this webinar. Now, within a short webinar like this, it's always difficult to give a comprehensive overview of everything that's new in Maple 2024. What I do want to do is actually share some of my personal highlights. If you do want a comprehensive list of everything that's new in the new release, then feel free to browse our website. First of all, I'd like to start off by talking about the improvements that we've made to the interface in Maple 2024. Now, I'm assuming that everyone here has used various versions of Maple in the past. You're all aware of its rich technical document interface. And I've just got a few examples of the type of things that you can do with Maple just to set the scene. So here I have a Maple worksheet with a title, a description, explanatory equations, diagrams that I've copied in from other applications. Here I've arranged parameters and text in a table. I'm evaluating equations in line, and at the bottom I have my results, a plot. And if I wanted to modify and customize the look and feel of this plot, I could expand the context panel and use these options here on the right hand side to change colors, grid lines, titles, labels, fonts, and other aspects of this chart. So this is one look and feel for a Maple worksheet. Given the flexibility of Maple's worksheet, Maple's interface, you can develop applications that look completely different. So here I have an application in which I don't see any equations, I don't see any commands. I simply have sliders which allow me to change parameter values. As soon as I change the slider, you can see this plot updating on the right-hand side. There's a button. There are text boxes which allow me to change properties of this application. In fact, this is the kind of application that you can deploy free of charge using the Maple Player. The concept is that you can develop an application like this in your main license of Maple. You can program in interactivity with sliders, dials, gauges, and widgets. And then you can deploy this application free of charge using the Maple Player. The Maple Player is a free runtime version of Maple. I think if you Google Maple Player, it's the first link. I'm also rather fond of the context panel as well. So the context panel on the right, if you click on equations, plots, imported data, it allows you to perform context-sensitive analysis. So here I've left-clicked on a matrix. I could calculate eigenvalues, eigenvectors. I could interrogate the matrix, convert it to different forms. If I left-click on this transfer function, I have a new option at the very bottom, which allows me to generate phase and magnitude plots, convert this to a different form, and much more. Let's try this. So there we go. I'm also fond of the command completion menu in Maple. That's something that we've enhanced for Maple 2024. Very briefly, if you're not aware of the command completion menu and the simple completion menu, if you just type in the first few letters of a command and then you hit escape or control space on your keyboard, the command completion menu pops up on screen, giving you completions. You can select the completion you want, hit tab, and that completion appears on screen. Now, new in Maple 2024, we've enhanced the command completion menu to provide suggestions for arguments as well. So what do I mean by that? If I type in a plotting command and I insert an open brackets, I have a list of suggested arguments. So I might select an expression. If I hit comma again, I have a list of suggested arguments and options for customizing the look and feel of that plot. So I could select color, pick a suggested color, or modify the color that it chooses. I could add in, change the line style. Now, previously, you'd have to read the Maple documentation to know what all of these options are and the values that can be applied. Now, many of these options are now available through the argument completion menu. So this isn't just restricted to the plot command. I also have argument completion for many functions in other packages in Maple. So for example, here I've defined a vector. I've filled the vector with a sinusoid. Here I've defined a parameter and given it a value of 10. So let's say that I want to generate a periodogram using tools from the signal processing package. As soon as I hit open bracket, the argument completion menu suggests I use signal, the vector I've just defined, as the first argument. So let's select that. If I hit comma, I'll need to specify a sample rate. So here, if I select sample rate, the argument completion menu suggests I use the parameter I've defined, SR. So let's select that. And there we go. That's my periodogram. So instead of hunting through the help menus for how I should modify the plot command or the periodogram command, and many of these options are now available through the argument completion menu. It really is a game changer in how I interact with Maple. I'm now more likely to investigate the effect of different options because I know what those options are, and I know what the suggested option values are as well. Here's another really interesting update that we've made to Maple 2024. Typically, when I generated a large matrix in prior versions of Maple, I would only see the top left-hand corner of that matrix, so the first 10 rows and the first 10 columns. However, now I can see all of that matrix within the worksheet itself with scrollable matrices. So here I've generated a random matrix with 25 rows, 25 columns, and now within the worksheet I can scroll through the rows and columns. And there are many other improvements that we made to the interface as well. And here's just a couple other that I have used when developing my own worksheets. One thing I've always wanted to do is strike through text as well, just as another way of generating richer documentation. Now, if I select text, I can go to the Format menu, select Character, and select the new strike-through property for text. Some of you may be familiar with the drawing canvas within Maple. This is a simple environment which allows you to draw simple block diagrams by inserting squares, arrows, circles, text, and more. I now have an arc tool in the drawing canvas. So with a couple of clicks, I can create an arc and modify it. Let's move on. Let's talk about another important pillar of Maple for scientists and engineers, and that's its ability to understand and manipulate units. So I use units all the time when I'm using Maple. And here I just have a few examples of applications I've created previously. So let's just look at this one. In this application, I'm calculating the strength coefficient for a group of bolts. Now, all my initial parameters have units. So here I have a matrix giving the location of my bolts in inches. Here I'm defining the shear strength in newtons and defining other parameters in inches as well. Now, these are my initial parameters. As I progress through my analysis, the units flow through the analysis, through the fsolve command, and into my results. Ultimately, I end up with the tensile strength of the bolt group in newtons. And if I wanted to, I could rescale this to any other consistent unit. So for example, I may want to rescale this to kilonewtons. I can do that very easily using the context panel. And also using the context panel, I could add in some sensible numeric formatting as well. It's simple to do. We've actually made a number of under the hood performance enhancements for units in Maple 2024. You can now compute with units much faster. For example, you now have faster matrix operations with units. Here I'm generating a random matrix. I've appended a unit. And here I'm calculating its inverse. Now, in prior versions of Maple, this would have chugged along for a few seconds, maybe a minute before giving you a result. But now the result appears instantly because of the performance enhancements we've made under the hood. We've also extended the scope of units in Maple as well. We're gradually extending support for units throughout the Maple library. So in each successive release, we added more support for units. So for example, several years ago, we introduced units into the int command into fsolve. For this release, we've decided to extend support for units into the statistics package as well. And these just are just a few commands from the statistics package which do understand units now. There are more. So here I'm specifying a list of data. There are varying units in the data. I think we have feet, we have meters, and then I can calculate the mean, variance, and sample and skewness of my data set. Maple does all of the unit conversion under the hood. There are other commands in the statistics package which understand units now. These are just a few. Let's talk about signal processing. So this is a personal passion of mine, signal processing. This is a theme in Maple that I've been attempting to advance over the last 5 years, over the last 6 years. Gradually, with each release of Maple, we introduce more tools for signal processing, more features, more visualizations. And if you look at the Maple Application Center on maplesoft.com, you'll find many signal processing applications that I've published on there. Just to give everyone a brief overview, this is just one application of signal processing in Maple. There are many, many others. So here I'm importing an audio file. When I import that audio file, I see a sample or a summary of the properties of that audio file. Using the spectrogram tool from the signal processing package, I generate a spectrogram. I can then apply a filter to my audio file. In this case, it's an FIR filter with low and high cutoffs for the frequencies. It's a bandpass filter. And then I can generate a spectrogram of the filtered audio file. You can see how different it is. So for Maple 2024, we've introduced a new response spectrum command. So a response spectrum is a plot of the peak response of a series of oscillators of various natural frequencies to the same vibration. Typically, this is a function that you may use in geotechnical engineering when you're analyzing seismic data. And that's exactly what we've done here in this small application. So we start off by importing data from an accelerometer. Specifically, this data was from the El Centro earthquake. Here you can see all of the data in a scrollable matrix. This is a time series plot of the accelerometer data. But now with Maple 2024, we can generate a response spectrum. There are various plots you can generate. So here we have an absolute acceleration response spectrum. Here's the pseudo velocity. You could generate the absolute displacement and other plots as well. You can also, if needed, return the actual numerical data used to generate these plots. I'm a big fan of visualization as well. You can generate some really interesting visualizations in Maple. Often I generate visualizations programmatically, and these are some of the visualizations I've generated over the past few years. So this is a psychrometric chart with weather conditions for Waterloo in Ontario. This is a triangular plot of the color of gold, silver, copper alloys. And as you hover your mouse over this plot, you'll get the composition of the alloys. And this is just a map of the Earth with the location of earthquakes. The color of the points indicate the magnitude of the earthquake, and you can also change the projection of the map as well. These are all applications that have been published on the Application Center. Now, new in Maple 2024, we've extended support for color bars to other commands. So here we've added a color bar to a contour plot. There are now options for fine-tuning the look and feel of that color bar. And this is something that you might have seen when I was talking about signal processing. Spectrograms now automatically include a color bar when they're generated. As a part of our suite of tools for programmatic plot generation, you can now also generate pyramids with various bases. So here we've generated a pyramid using a hexagonal base. And these can be used for when you're creating more complex visualizations or when you're explaining various technical concepts. Let's talk about math. So year after year, we extend the boundary of what you can do mathematically in Maple. We introduce more functions for new areas of math, and we extend the functionality of existing commands as well. We've made a whole suite of improvements for math in Maple 2024, and I'm not going to go through everything. Everything is described in detail on our web pages on maplesoft.com. But we've made significant enhancements to the core symbolic commands. And here are just a few examples. We've improved symbolic integration. So here's an example of an integral I'm trying to compute symbolically. This was the output in Maple 2023, and this is the new result in Maple 2024. As you can see, Maple 2024 gives a far more compact result. Similarly, there are a number of other examples here as well. So here's the simplify command. This is the output in Maple 2023. And in 2024, we now return a much more pleasing result. This is a symbolic summation. In Maple 2023, this was returned unevaluated. And now we explicitly give you a result in Maple 2024. And the desolve command now gives you more compact, more desirable results for many problems as well. And again, this is just an example. There are many, many other improvements I could talk about. Improvements to pattern matching, improvements to other core routines. But let's put that to one side for the moment and move on. Let's talk about AI. For the first time in Maple, we've leveraged the latest advancements in AI, and they're now a core part of the interface. If you've been eagle-eyed, you'll notice that we have a new AI Formula Assistant tab here. If I click on this, we now have a new menu which allows you to type in queries, request for equations, and get results. As soon as you click on search, this query is sent to a large language model. Maple interprets the results and gives you various equations. So here I've asked the AI Formula Assistant to give me equations for the friction factor in turbulent flow. It's returned these equations. These can all be selected with this drop-down box. Here are various other examples of the AI Formula Assistant in action. It's a pretty interesting tool. As ever, you have to be careful when you're using any assistant which employs AI to return results. The results have to be interpreted with a degree of experience. But certainly, I found many interesting uses for the AI Formula Assistant. Additionally, we have a new natural language package that you can access from the worksheets by typing in commands. Here I've loaded the natural language package. I've asked it to return an equation for the surface area of a cylinder, the resistance of 5 resistors connected in parallel, and as you can see, it's returned the right equations. There are other commands in the natural language package. So here I've asked Maple to give me a package which lets me analyze transfer functions, and it's correctly identified the dynamic systems package. Here I've asked the natural language package to give me the Maple command, which will help me solve equations numerically. And again, it returned the right command, the fsolve command. You can also ask the natural language package to explain various technical concepts to you as well. So here I've asked the natural language package to describe fast Fourier transforms. This functionality is also exploited in the quantum chemistry toolbox as well. That's an optional toolbox for Maple, there's now a command in the quantum chemistry toolbox which allows you to interrogate large language models and explain various technical concepts in quantum chemistry. So here I've asked it to describe what a particular compound is. Here I've asked it to describe a thermodynamic concept. So those were my personal highlights for Maple 2024. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, there's always more that we pack into each release of Maple than we can describe in a webinar like this. All of the new enhancements are described in detail on our website, and I do encourage you to browse the What's New pages. And if you do have any questions, just let us know. Just contact our support desk and we'll be more than happy to engage with you. We're all very eager and enthusiastic about Maple 2024, and we want to share that enthusiasm with you. Now, as a finishing touch to this webinar, I actually want to describe some of the new features in the new version of Maple Flow 2024. We're releasing that in a few weeks. For those of you who aren't aware what Maple Flow is, it's a new interface that sits on top of the Maple mathematical engine. We've tweaked the evaluation model. We've made certain modifications to how Maple Flow understands your equations, just to make it simpler to use. It still has all of the power of the Maple programming language, but there are many interesting features. It has a free-form interface, so you can click anywhere. You can do math. You can define variables and use those variables in your computations like so. Maple Flow evaluates left or right, top to bottom, just like reading a page from a book. So if I take this definition of y and drop it here, well, this doesn't know what y is anymore, so y is left as an unassigned name. If I move it back up, there we go. So there's a new interface, but you can still use all of the power of the Maple mathematical engine. So if you need to do a symbolic integral, you can do that. So let me just insert an integral. If I hit equals to evaluate, oh, I've defined x here, so let me delete that. And there we go. The first release of Maple Flow was about 3 years ago. We've been adding new features release after release since then. In Maple 2024, which we're going to release in about 3 weeks, there's a large number of new features to help you create applications more easily, together with performance enhancements we've made to Maple Flow as well, so you can work with larger worksheets more quickly. For example, in Maple Flow 2024, you can now have hyperlinks from one part of a document to another part of a document. So here I have a series of hyperlinks which allow me to jump to different parts of my worksheet. That was something I couldn't do before. We've also increased the scope and the functionality of the variables palette. The variables palette lists all of the parameters you defined at the point of the cursor. So if I click up here, at this point I haven't defined any variables, so this is blank. As I click further down, you can see that the variables palette progressively fills with more and more parameters. In MapleFlow 2024, you can now actually insert variables directly from the variables palette onto your worksheet. So if I double click on this, it's inserted into my worksheet and I can start working with it straight away. So I can use the variables palette to quickly insert variables without having to type them in myself. There are lots of other improvements that we've made to MapleFlow 2024, but you'll have to wait a few weeks to learn what all of them are. So I think that brings me to the end of this webinar.